Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It's Monday, and we're 2 days away from Christmas. And, I basically, this is not going to be a long video, but I wanted to kind of demonstrate something just in case, because I think you guys need to understand, anytime big swings happen in the market, I start getting flooded with a lot of messages, people asking me questions. And so I just wanted to address this. Now, a couple weeks ago, I did a video where I was talking about how we could see a drop down to, like the $76,000 range. And everybody was like, you're an idiot, right? And when I see those comments, I know who's new, because the people who flat out deny the possibility for that kind of price action, they're new, right? Because they bought into some narrative, and they bought in, and they're like, it's never going to go down from here because I bought in at the best time, right? Like it's silly. But I'm going to show a couple charts, and I'm going to just demonstrate how this still may be in play. Now, the narrative behind that video that I did was behind the CME futures gap. And I'm not necessarily saying this is specifically because of the CME futures gap. I make a lot of predictions. Some of them are very serious. And then some of them are kind of casual, off the cuff, like, hope. I hope Cardano hits, 240 by Christmas. I don't think that's happening in 2 days, right? It's just not. But I do think that, in January, I think it's absolutely possible. But what I believe is happening now is one of the first big corrections of this bull cycle. And you have to understand that this is the time when people are selling and doing things to prepare and finalize everything for this year's taxes, which plays a big role in price action, believe it or not. And so that's what I think we're seeing right now. So if we zoom in a little bit on this, where we're at currently, is we're trading right around 92.3. Okay. And that's a pretty big deal. We're about halfway through what could ultimately be around a 30% drop. 31% would take us to about 76,000. Okay. What does that mean? Well, if we look at the CME futures, we can see that the top of this is around 80,600. When I made that prediction, it was all the way back here. It was literally on this candle. And I said, we could very well see a drop, really for a couple reasons, but likely as an effort to fill this CME futures gap. And it's not, CME futures gaps are not the end all be all. I'm very well aware of this, but, much more likely is it that the Bitcoin price fills those gaps before it moves on and moves up. And so I believe that the narrative playing out now is right when I made this prediction, the price went up, and then it continued to go up, and it went all the way up to around 109,000. Of course, everyone's flaming me. My long-term viewers, they all know better. But the new people that just catch my video off a suggestion or something, they're like, look at this old idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Price has gone up $5,000 since his video. The guy's a doofus. He doesn't know what he's saying, right? And I see all these comments flaming and trolling, and I always chuckle because you're basically showing me who's new. And that's really what happens. I literally chuckle. But basically after that, what happened? Where are we now? So the price went all the way up here to around 109,000, and we are currently down about 15%. Now, if we look at the bottom of this CME futures gap here, we're at around 78,000. Okay. So around 77,766. There you go. So that's basically where we're at. Now, let me bring this in a little bit more here for you. Sorry. There we go. Let's bring it up, because I like when you guys can see the prices on the right side as well. So there you go. So that's basically what we're looking at. It was around 77,900. Now, and this is the bottom, and you're like, well, but why would it just come down? Why are you saying it could go even lower than that if the gap because we have wicks? Because oftentimes when we get significant drops, we'll get wicks to the downside, because if people think that this is the top, then they'll likely put in high leverage longs at that point, and then those get liquidated with little last minute wicks. That's why. That's what happens. So if that's what were to happen, we would be down about 31.5%. Just to fill those gaps, we get a little bit of a wick down to liquidate any like new high leverage longs that might be put into place. Now, if we look at the past and you can compare these two, let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see what I'm talking about. This is where I believe we are in the current market. Okay. And this is on a weekly, these are weekly candles, folks, weekly candles. But can you see how identical this is? And I know that there's no guarantee that, history is going to match the present or the future, blah, blah, blah. It typically rhymes pretty daggone close. And I have these theories about the markets. I believe that the majority of the crypto movement, literally since inception, is relevant to algorithmic bots, high frequency trading bots. I really believe that the market is controlled to a large degree, and the ebbs and flows are seeded by algorithmic bots. I mean, I just don't think there's any way else to put it. And I think that, and I'm actually working on something because I'm really trying to crack this. This is something that I've felt in my gut since the very beginning, since 2017. It's what originally drew me into bot trading. And I think that the layers of complexity are substantial in how these bots operate and how they basically match order book data. I believe that, like Crow Trader, Profit Trailer, a lot of these bots, they focus on EMAs and SMAs and MACD and RSI and all of that. And that's all helpful. That's all cool. But I really believe that these high-powered, high-frequency bots, they act on a lot more data than just, when we break through the EMA or we have this 13/34 crossover on the 5-minute, whatever. Like, I think a lot of that stuff is bunk, right? I really do. That's one of the reasons why DCA is such a big deal for people like me in bot trading, because you're just playing on a couple little variables to a much larger equation. And I believe that order book data, sentiment, where we are in the cycle, I think there are just so many different levels of that, which is one of the reasons I believe like quantitative trading and high frequency, high output trading is such a big deal. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. But anyway, if we look at where we're at now, you can see our first big wick, our first big candle, weekly candle into this red zone was basically the beginning of it started off the descent into that first big 31% correction. And then once we concluded that, now keep in mind, this was back in January of 2021. This was literally like the first big month that we broke into the red, heading into the new peaks of the market. And once this concluded, so we came down 31%. And as you can see here too, if I zoom in, this was a big wick, right? We came down a certain percentage and the rest of that was a wick. So we came down with the candle around 24%, and then the remainder of that was a wick in the market. All right, those are liquidations basically playing out. But then we got the reversal. We got this like little doji candle where it's like, okay, we're about to reverse, and then we went up. So from that point to that first peak, we went up 131%. And at this point, we're in April. So you got January, February, March, April, boom, 4 months. Now, this is why. Now, here's the thing, though, and this is what I think is different about this market, because I don't believe that the market was effectively supposed to peak then. I believe that this is why we had a 2-peak market. It got broken up. One of two things is going to play out in this market. Either one, we are going to have an elongated bull market cycle. And, we might hit the first peak around 185,000, that's been my prediction for I don't know how long now. I just leave that there. And that would put us around March. I put that in. That's around March right here. March of 2025, January, February, March. So like 3 months, we might get that. And then we might come down and we'll see what all the other indicators spell out. But I really don't think this market is going to, I mean, March might be cutting it a little close. I think we're going to be somewhere in the second quarter of 2025. Maybe we have a 2-peak market cycle. Maybe we have a 4-peak market cycle. I really don't know at this point, but I know what numbers I'm looking for it all to make sense. We know obviously Bitcoin peaks first, and that, if Bitcoin were to peak in March around 185 grand and that be the top, at that point we might go March, April, May, and we might see the altcoin market peak in May. What's significant about May? Well, according to Charles Hoskinson, as it relates to Cardano, May is the month where I think IOHK is planning on launching its own version of the Bitcoin OS with a native asset on Cardano, because Bitcoin OS is looking to have their own token and basically not put all of that volume into ADA itself, but have another token on the block. So, and Charles is like, well, if you're really trying to support the Cardano ecosystem, why wouldn't you just have it, either a native asset on Cardano or just use ADA, right? And so Charles is like, well, we love your idea. We're going to basically do that too, because let's create options. And they're expecting that to launch in May. Well, it would make a lot of sense, because between now and then, I'm pretty sure we're going to have the midnight launch. We're going to have so much happening on Cardano the first quarter of 2025 into the second quarter. And I believe all of that is going to be pushing into what I believe is going to be the altcoin peak. And I think that a lot of the profit, and a lot of the coins, a lot of the stuff going on in the altcoin market, the first quarter of 2025, Bitcoin's probably going to peak. That liquidity is going to spill in. And then, either that continues building into a second peak that's much more elongated, or we don't have this peak. This gets wiped out. The market just continues pushing forward because there's way too much adoption, way too much FOMO, way too much going on in the ecosystems to basically say the peak is in and we're done. So that's what I think is happening. That's what I'm looking at. But yeah, this is completely normal. It's completely natural. It has literally happened every market cycle. And if we do get a 30% drop and Bitcoin comes down to 75,000 or 76,000, I mean, it can very easily turn around, and over a couple of period of a couple months, few months, we can slam up 100% or more. And in that, if you take the liquidity that comes out of a 200,000, like roughly $200,000 Bitcoin, that is the earmark for basically creating what could effectively become a $10 Cardano just a month or two later. And so, yeah, I mean, personally, I think that the longer this market gets pushed, and these dips are very comfortable. You don't want everything to run up to a super hot peak that melts everything and then it comes down. You want it to heat up and cool, strengthen itself over time. Those are the metrics that we look for a really, really, really strong bull market. And the reality is that with this pro-crypto administration entering entering office in next month, we have less than a month until we have the the only real pro-crypto administration, with a lot of people that are going to be establishing policies to really help protect the crypto space and really make America what it should have been already. And that is a hub for cryptocurrency, blockchain-based innovation. And I'm really excited about it. And I have a hard time believing that this new administration and these policies and all of the regulatory clarification, all of the things we've been begging for so long, are going to happen right before a peak of a market cycle. I really just don't think that's going to be the case. I can see this pushing this market cycle further out. And we'll see. Who knows? Do I think we're going to have a peak? Listen, I made the argument for us having like a super cycle. I believe that a super cycle is likely much more possible in the 2030 market, when all of this stuff that's basically launching and kicking off now has had time to cook over a bear market. And then it's all like showing on-chain metrics through real world adoption heading into 2030. I think 2030 is the pinnacle. I really believe that 2030 is going to be the period of time where the world as we know it has completely transitioned outside of the old into the new, and we're seeing use cases just absolutely explode. I know that there are partnerships in play right now that nobody knows anything about, that I believe wholeheartedly are absolutely going to change the paradigm of the space, not just in crypto, but just the way the world works. And I think it's a really, really big deal. And we're going to learn more about that over time. But that's it. So, like, don't freak out. It's cool. No, it's not the peak. It's not happening yet. And of course I'll continue to do follow-up videos moving forward, but and on a quick note, I'm actually working on 3 AI bots, like AI agents. One of them is going to be crypto focused, and I'm going to be setting it up to basically communicate with people on Twitter and likely Telegram. My Telegram group, you're going to be able to talk to it. It's going to respond. It's going to answer questions and things. All about the crypto space, and it's going to be pulling data and information from a RAG that I'm building, that it's got 200 PDFs from all the way back in the day about every trading strategy. It should be pretty cool. I've got another one that I'm working on for Vibrantism, to kind of help build an ecosystem on Twitter around the Vibrantism, and then I've got a special one that I'm going to announce. I'm going to see if you guys can find it on your own. So I'm working on some fun things. Thanks to Dave Nance, who's been helping me immensely. I'm super excited about that stuff. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say today. I just kind of wanted to let everybody know what I believe is happening. And listen, just because I say things that may sound crazy in the moment doesn't mean they're crazy. Often I'm a little early before things start really playing out, but typically I'm always right sometimes. Until next time, crow your coins. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.